Welcome to DubLife Diaries, the podcast where passion meets the open road. I'm Joe Person, your host, and also a lifelong dubber. Buckle up, because this ride is just beginning. This podcast is sponsored by Volksmania magazine. Good times, great cars, awesome Volksmaniacs. Visit Volksmania.com to learn more about this class-leading VW magazine. All right, welcome back to DubLife Diaries. This one is going to be fun. We got a nice evening planned with some awesome people. Get ready for this one. Guys, there are car builds, and then there's going to be stories that feel like sometimes the universe just kind of hands them over. You guys know what I mean? Any of you Volkswagen enthusiasts. Today's guest didn't really buy a legendary show car. He didn't really inherit one either. He didn't chase fame, didn't chase sponsors, didn't chase a polished, shiny build. This dude traded a roof rack. Yep, you heard that right. A roof rack for what turned out to be a forgotten piece of Volkswagen history. All right, a rusted up, smashed up Karmann Ghia that a lot of people might have hauled off to the scrapyard without a second thought. All right, but not this guy. And here's kind of where the story gets wild. Buried in deep in the story was an engine that sat for, I think, 25 years. A mystery motor that you pulled out of a sand rail that you tore down on a hunch, and only to reveal a Porsche 356 roller crank hiding inside. That's kind of cool, right? The kind of parts that seasoned builders will absolutely freak out over. This dude just showed me the back of this Ghia behind him too, the motor that's in it. Y'all are about to freak out when you see it, all right? Just when you think it's a lucky project story, the past actually comes calling, all right? Photos start to resurface. Magazine features from 97. Ghost graphics under some paint. A license plate that reads Deep Purple. We're going to hear all about that. A car that once stood show fields across the country, now reborn in the hands of a blue-collar builder who dropped out of school to become a working man, raised a family, worked on the oil rigs, and has never stopped turning wrenches. This isn't just a build. This is resurrection. This is the Volkswagen community. This is how old machines find their way back to the people that bring them back to life. So cool. So buckle up, guys, because today we're talking grit, destiny, and rare VW history and the road to Deep Purple resurrection. Kristopher Hayes, welcome to DubLife Diaries.
Wow, thanks, Joe. I sure appreciate that introduction. It made my hair stand up on my arm hearing that. That's pretty good,
yeah,
man.
That's awesome.
What a pleasure.
That's because you're a dubber, bro. This is what we do this for. I do this podcast for guys like you. Thank you for being willing. Before we get going too deep here, let me give a shout out to my sponsors right on my shirt. You guys see them. Shout out to Volksmania magazine. You guys know how I feel. Flyest VW production on the face of the planet. And you know why. It's not just the quality of the magazine itself. It's the people behind the product, Paul and the team. Just a bunch of awesome folks. They put out some really quality stuff, and they give a guy like me a chance to have this type of a podcast production. And they put me front and center in the magazine. So I'm super grateful. Also, shout out to Salty Dub. From the beach to the bay, Salty Dub is tearing up the VW coastal scene down here in the west coast of Central Florida. We do events. We got swag. Check out saltydub.com. You can use the discount code of DubLife10 on the website. It works for merch, hats, sunglasses, keychains, all kinds of cool stuff. But check those guys out. Lastly, and then it's back to you, my man, is shout out to Grant Aslan. Grant told you about the podcast and told you to register. Grant, I appreciate you, brother. Thank you, man, for spreading the good word. Love to hear that you guys are rocking out there in Colorado. You guys know I've told you, and I miss Colorado. I spent 9 years of my life out there. I had a couple of my kids out there, and I think about the mountains of Colorado all the time. Anytime I see Grant rolling, especially when he goes south and he goes down to the Springs and he shows like Garden of the Gods or whatever, I'm like, dude, that's my area, man.
Right.
So anyhow, shout out to Grant. All right, buddy, back to you, man. Back to you. You ready?
Yes, sir. Yeah, no, thanks, Grant. I sure appreciate it, too. I look forward to seeing him up here at Volkswagen on the Green 2026. Hope to be
what
by
a
then.
show. What a show.
Yes, sir.
The drone shots of that show give me goosebumps. There's like 400 plus cars in this giant open field with mountains in the backdrop, like Come on,
I
man.
haven't
Volkswagen's
I
on.
haven't been yet, man. So it looks gorgeous, and I'm looking forward to it. I'm really
Yeah.
excited.
So let's talk about Colorado for a second, man. You were born in Grand Junction, Colorado. What was life growing up there in the late 80s and 90s?
Oh man, just it was actually pretty calm as a kid, just riding bikes and hanging out as kids. No cell phones, no electronics. Kind of the good old days, sneaking a pack of smokes from the parents and doing the things you weren't supposed to do. That's how I grew up. It was go outside and play and drink some water out of the garden hose if you're thirsty type of kid.
Yeah. Oh, that's so
That
funny.
was
That's our
me.
life.
So,
That's our whole,
yeah.
I remember when pagers first came out, we all had to have
Yep.
we got beepers and your buddies would message you and they'd put 911 behind it, and you'd have to freak out, go find a payphone. I remember when payphones went from 10 cents to 25 cents. I was about to fall out of my chair back then. But yeah,
Yeah.
man.
Good luck finding a payphone nowadays, huh?
Yeah, yeah. You see them sometimes, like super rarely. I have a funny story about that. It's not really payphone, but I'm still going to tell it. So years ago, I was with my son, my oldest son, who's 18 now, and we were at this little old lady's house, and my cell phone had died, and we were trying to get in touch with my wife. So I had asked this lady if I could use her phone. It was a cordless phone. And I told my son, go grab the phone, just pick it up, listen for the dial tone and call your mom. And he goes, listen for the what? And I'm like, oh my God, it hit me. I'm like, oh, wait a second. You don't know
They're
what a
not used
dial
to that.
tone is. You know what I mean?
Yeah, they
So
don't know
yeah.
that.
So
That's
let's talk
great.
about this. What kind of jobs when you were younger kind of shaped you, I guess maybe shaped you most early on?
Yeah, so as growing up, man, my mom, she kind of gave me an option. She was going to Michigan, and probably about 15 and a half years old. She says, I'm going to take off, go to Michigan. You want to stay here with your friends and, kind of do what you want to do, or you want to come with me? And I chose to stay, man. And ever since then, I started jobs as anything I could do. One, painting houses when I was a kid. Then I started doing some plumbing work, and then I was skirting mobile homes and went into, changing oil on cars. And then I ended up doing some oil field work for a while, and kind of ended up all over the place as growing up. Kind of did it all. So, jack of all trades, master of none type of deal.
Okay. So what was it about automotive then? So why did automotive kind of pull you into its world?
Man, when I was a child, my mom actually worked for Sears Automotive, and I called her a chickanic because she wasn't quite a mechanic, So she was, she was a chickanic, and she worked there for 15 years, and she drove a 71 Pontiac Ventura that was pretty cherried out for a while, and then she ended up trading that off and got a 72 Chevy Nova and drove that, and she was pretty much the coolest chick in the neighborhood. Everybody liked her. All the
Yeah,
dads of my friends were like, "Oh, look at that hot mom, got a cool car too." And
yeah,
I
yeah.
just I always liked cars, and maybe I was just born into it because she had a cool fast car and things like that. My grandpa had, an old Dodge Power Wagon. I kind of like that old guy, and I don't know, just always interested me to be around cars and lawnmowers and just the workings and mechanicalness of everything, and how it worked. And my first bicycle, I kind of had it torn apart within the first 2 hours, and my mom's yelling at me, "What are you doing?" And it just interested me how it went together. So just always been around cars and just love them, man.
I've got a son out of all my kids. I've got one son that's like that. He's always got to be taking shit apart and learning how it works. And, dude, he always gets it back together though. And sometimes I
Yeah.
underestimate, I'm like, dude, there ain't no way you're gonna, that ain't going back together. Good job, buddy. And then
Yeah.
2 hours later, he's like, heh, heh, look at that. I'm
Hey,
like, damn, dude,
check it out.
yeah,
Rubbing it in your
you
face,
did
huh?
it. Yeah, exactly. So you
Yeah,
mentioned
no.
lawnmowers, and it's kind of funny because that's kind of maybe your first teeth cut on air cooled, because a lot of them
Yeah, for
lawnmowers are
sure.
air cooled. Yeah. So
Yeah.
this is a VW podcast. So when was the first VW in your life?
It would have to be my Beetle, my personal one. I mean, I seen them all over through car shows and throughout my childhood. I watched Ghias and Beetles and stuff just out and about, but I never had any family member or anybody that was close to him. My grandpa was always, against the Japanese stuff and, the German stuff. And he was only American, we only
Yeah,
do
yeah.
Chevy, Ford, Dodge. That's it, type deals. But I always seen the curvature of the Beetles and the Porsches really caught my eye, but I always knew I would never be able to afford a Porsche. So I was steering towards the VW scene, and I always wanted one, and my wife told me I was stupid for wanting a Beetle, but I just liked them anyway. And one day at that one on Christmas, probably it was right just before COVID happened. I seen that one, man, and I could not get away from it. And I worked a deal with the guy, and I had an 85 GMC S15 pickup. It was a one owner, clean 4-wheel drive pickup.
Nice.
And the guy looked at me like I was stupid when I told him I wanted to just trade straight across. And
It's like, are you
so
sure?
as I went to leave, I went to start the Beetle and that thing wouldn't even start. And so I went back in there and was like, "Hey man, this thing doesn't even start now." And he's like, that was after we signed the titles over. So he got 5 other guys out there to try to jump start it, and it wouldn't even jump start. So then we push started me out of there, and it fired up, and I took off, and I just didn't even look back, man. And like you said, ever since that day, I got it home, and my wife, was like, "You're stupid," but I had that hope that it would get better, and I did, and
So you
they had the little 1600 with a single 34 pick carb and no guts, but I acquired a 1835 motor that was kind of ripped apart by another guy. So like you said, I just started finding other people that were into Volkswagen somehow, and they go, "Hey, I got a buddy that has some parts here or there," and so I built this 1835 for it. And after I got that, I was eyeballing that bus that I was telling you about, that 71 bus out in Clifton. So I picked that up. I made the guy an offer, and he wouldn't take it. So I let it sit for another year, and I went back and made him an offer, and he said, "Yeah, I'll take it." He didn't have the title. He couldn't find the title for it. So I wasn't too nervous about that. I told him I'll pay a little less because you don't have the title. Excuse me. I got it home off the tow truck and realized that it was a sunroof bus. I didn't even look it over that good. I really wanted a bus. And so I was like, "Score, it's a sunroof bus." And then it was also a 71 Deluxe. So it had all the chrome trim around it.
Oh,
And
nice.
then I seen it had an exhaust pipe hanging out the back. I didn't even think it had a motor. I just knew I wanted a bus, and it was in decent shape body wise. So I
That's
was like,
that love of being
even,
out west. No rust.
yeah, even more of a score. So I got it home, and man, I just cleaned out the gas tank a little bit, put a new fuel filter on it, and put a new battery in it, changed the oil, put some plugs in it, and it fired right up, man.
Gotta love them. So you
Yeah, me and
literally actually got bit by the bug. Like that's, kind of what they say. But by a
a
Volkswagen truck,
hundred,
right? You
100%,
you
a
got the
hundred
Beetle and
percent.
got bit by it. So let's go back to the child
Yeah.
a little bit before we advance past it. You talked about your mom, kind of being into cars, and your grandfather, kind of did the American muscle type stuff. Growing up as a kid, what did cars really kind of represent to you back then? Was it like freedom? Was it like identity? Was it like your escape? What was it?
Oh man, it was kind of, I feel like it was more of like a therapeutic thing for me, man. When I get to cars, I kind of get my own little natural escape, and it feels like it's fluent, and it's something that I don't even think about that I'm doing it. Once I start doing it, it's just comes natural.
That's awesome, man. So it is kind of like an escape, right? Therapeutic escape.
Yeah,
Yeah, man.
for sure.
Something that you talked about in your history I thought was interesting was becoming a stepdad at a young age. Tell me how
Yeah.
that changed your mindset. Because I mean, I know what kids did for me, but tell me how that changed your mindset.
Wow, man, I had to kind of push my car passion off to the side for a bit and realize that becoming a dad's a little more important than cars. Human life is a big deal, and pushing that forward and sharing your beliefs and passion with them is good as well, and teaching them how to be car lovers is a huge thing in my life, because then we can hang out together and love
Yeah.
it together. But yeah, being a dad at an early age, man, it really teaches you to become responsible and make you choose what's really important.
Yeah, that's awesome. And we have that in common. The aspect of uh I guess kind of giving up some of what your passion is because you kind of replace that with children. And it's not that, you know, it was like I kicked and, kick and scream about it, giving up my passion. It was no, I wanted to. I wanted to be a good
Yep.
example. So I kind of started to take some of my own hobbies and put them on the back burner because what was more important was the development of human life, like you were just saying. So yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. Something else you talked about were the oil rigs, and I kind of had that in the beginning in your greeting. That's a different world, brother, and I know it because in my professional career, I'm an HVAC sales trainer, and I train a lot of trades companies. And in the trades, I get guys that sometimes trade the oil rigs in to go, get licensed and become, HVAC technicians or electricians, etc. And dude, I've heard some crazy, crazy stories about the oil rigs. So that being such a
Yeah.
different world, tell me what the oil rigs taught you about life itself.
I can say one thing, man. It just teach you how to work hard and have thick skin. Just it'll teach you that money's a lot, and it'll almost make you replace your family with work. They can get you out there to where you're working significant hours and you're not spending as much time with your family as you really need to. I think um, out there I was seeing the bigger numbers and money wise and not seeing the more importance of spending time with family. So
Okay.
I think cutting back on a little bit more money making and financial situations and spending more time with family is more important.
Amen. Amen. Been
But
my wife
but there is
25.
there's them single men out there with no kids, yeah, and they need to be out there making them big bucks. I'll tell you that though.
Yeah. Sometimes I see it. Sometimes I see it and I'm like, hey man, if you had kids, you wouldn't be driving that Porsche.
Yeah, that's
you
right.
know, and it's true. Those guys
Yeah.
get out of their car and they head to the gym and they have that fancy lifestyle. And I'm like,
Yep.
nah, man, you're missing the mark. You don't have kids though. Where's your legacy gonna be one day? You gonna die alone,
Yep.
buddy? You gonna die alone?
That's right.
So,
Yeah, no, man, I love being a dad. I'm super happy. My son, he's 11 now, so I just truck him along everywhere we go. He's my co-pilot, and we have a blast, man.
yeah, man. Awesome. Great age too. Such a developmental age and just man, that's awesome. My
Yeah,
wife, huge part of my life, 5 kids, we've been together 25 years, married 19. Speaking of married, you've been married also what, 11 years?
11 years, man. 11 years, yes, sir.
A long time.
Congratulations on yours as well.
Thank you. You made it past the 7 year itch.
Yeah, that's
know?
what they say. That's
Yeah,
what they
right.
say.
You can make it past seven, dude. You're coasting. You're sailing now. Has
Yeah.
your wife had any influence over your automotive journey at all?
I would say yes and no. She definitely backs me on it, but she fights me in some other aspects. She keeps me under wraps. So she keeps it controlled. Let's just say control over it. Because if it wasn't for her, I'd have a junkyard out there. So I mean, she tells me one day I had too many Beetles outside. I kept buying Volkswagen. She said, "I'm gonna call the working man if you don't keep getting them Beetles out there." That's so yeah, no, she keeps me well controlled. She definitely backs me and has tons of support for what I do, and I definitely can thank her for that.
Yeah, cool, man. That's cool. A lot of respect there for sure. How do you balance then being a builder and being a father? Because I know, like for me, 5 kids, all of them running in separate directions, all these activities, etc. It's actually kind of hard for me to tinker. I
Yeah.
and if I do get time to tinker, it's like as soon as I lay down on the ground and start looking at something and get my first wrench or socket out, either my phone rings or something happens and I got to get up and go handle my life, right? So
Yeah.
how do you balance, being a builder and being a dad?
Man, totally with you on that one. It's jump back into a scenario that you start getting in and get that thought process and then get yanked away. It's hard, but I'll tell you what, slow builds. My builds don't go fast.
Mm.
So
I hear
I
that a
try
lot,
to.
actually. I hear that a lot from the guys that build the badass shit. I I hear like it took me, 5 years, 7 years. You see now the finished product, but you don't know how long it took me to get here, and I'm always
Yeah,
like, huh, that's cool perspective. So I hear that a lot. Quality takes time.
yeah, I learned to dedicate a day if I can. I'll try to piece together rather than one little bit of work that I need to do on it on one of my vehicles. I'll try to add a couple of things so when I do go to do it, it takes like a day or half the day, and I make sure that I dedicate and put out that portion of the time so I can get those things done. Because if not, like you said, I'll just get drug off and nothing ever gets done.
Right, right, right.
And if it
And
does get done, it ain't done right.
right, and then that's when the wives start to complain, right? When
Yeah.
we start something and don't finish it, and then that kind of sits around, then we go start something else.
Yeah.
And then that
Yeah.
might sit too. And they're like,
Yeah.
you got the whole yard looking like Sanford and Sons. Yeah, so
Yeah. Yeah.
all right. This is a cool moment in your timeline. So let's talk about the exact moment at Cars and Coffee when this roof rack thing kind of happened. Tell me the whole story, because what a cool story this is.
Yeah, man. So me and my son, we kind of go to this cars and coffee thing they put on every Sunday down here in Junction on North Avenue. They have a little get together. It's from 11 o'clock to 1 o'clock on Sundays. Kind of go out there and just any car, any make, model, brand, any person can come out and just hang out, man, and have a cup of coffee at the Human Bean. We could just get together, talk cars, shoot the breeze, see what people have done over the week. Maybe they've modifications, maybe they need some help, maybe they're looking for a part, and maybe we can help each other out. It's a huge camaraderie. Everybody gets together, and it's just good, man. And me and my buddy Matt Reynolds, huge shout out to Matt and Scott Brady. They've been a huge impact on me and my Volkswagen life. If it wasn't for them, I don't think I would have made it this far for sure. I really didn't know what I was doing. Didn't really know how to get here where I am at. And every time I needed something, man, them guys have been a huge help. But yeah, seen Matt at the Cars and Coffee, and I was just shooting the breeze about that roof rack, and he said, "Where did it go?" And I told him, I took it off my car because I didn't really like the look, and he had already seen the way it looked, and he liked it. So he says, "Man, I really like that." And I said, "Well, I really like your Ghia. You want to trade for that Ghia?" And he said, he looked at me, and just shook his head, yeah. And I totally did not believe his yeah. I was like, "You're bullshitting me, like really?" And he's like, "Yeah, no, no, I'll trade you." And I was like, "Nah, you're kidding." And he goes, "No, I'll trade you." I said, I'm leaving right now. I'm gonna go get you that rack, like right now. And he's like, "No, don't worry about it. You can come bring it to me later." But I just wanted it set at that point. I want it set in stone. I was like, he ain't going back on the deal now. It's my Ghia. I really wanted it. So, but man, getting that thing home, it was a rough situation. I'll tell you what, it wasn't like I remembered seeing it. It was a lot rougher than I remembered it.
When you got this car home and you saw the condition of it, I remember in your story, you said the floors were gone, the nose was smashed up, there was rust everywhere. Tell me what went through your head at this point. Was it like excitement, or was it like, oh shit, what did I get myself into?
Oh, it's 100%. Oh shit! What did I get myself into? I immediately got overwhelmed and just was like, "What am I even gonna do with this car? Like, why did I even bring it here?" And but for some reason I can still see the finished product even though it's not done. I can still see what it's going to be. I have this envision. It's kind of wild. It's in my head. It'll come to fruition one day and everybody will be able to see it as well, but until then it's just a dream.
So that's an interesting take though, right? Because I hear that a lot from enthusiasts. I really do. So I'm always curious to ask this question. What makes somebody like you see potential where a lot of other people, maybe even like me, might see total scrap?
I think it's the challenge. I think
Okay.
seeing somebody else just saying no, it's gone and there's no hope, it's like that challenge, like, oh well, bet me, type deal. It's like, well, I bet you I can get that thing up and running, and you can kind of see the excitement of somebody else, that they have that passion to want to see it done, but they don't have the physical ability to do it. So when you have that vision and you have the ability to make it come true, I think there's really nothing that can stop you, honestly.
Yeah, interesting. And that's yeah. So passion and ability, when those two collide, you can see a masterpiece where a lot of other people can't. That's kind of cool. So let's fast forward just a little bit. Your father-in-law had this engine sitting around 25 years. Where was it? Where was this engine sitting?
So I'm gonna make this story, a long story, even longer here. So it's pretty wild, man. So the way I met my wife, I was actually driving through this alleyway back behind me before I even met her, and there was a Vega wagon sitting right here where this Ghia's at, and I seen this Vega wagon, and I really wanted that Vega wagon. So I actually stopped here at this house and I knocked on the front door, and my wife answered the door long before she was my wife. And I said, do you know who owns that Vega wagon out there? And she says, yeah, my dad. I said, well, can I talk to him? I want to try to buy it. So she goes, oh, give me a bit, and I went and chatted with her dad for a couple hours, but he did not want to sell me that Vega. He didn't want to part with it. So long story even longer, we ended up getting married. We found each other probably 8 years later. We found each other, and we didn't even really know. But then all of a sudden, she was like, "Wait a minute, I remember you. You came to my house." And then I said, "Yeah, your dad had that Vegas." She was showing me pictures, and
Yeah.
then it just kind of clicked. I was like, "Holy cow! I did knock on this house's door." But anyway, so he has this dune buggy, and I was like, "Wow, that thing's cool." And he's had a Oldsmobile 215 V8 in it. He's got in there. And we were just shooting the breeze one day, and I said, "Well, what happened to the old motor that was in it?" And he said, "Oh, it was a 2110 or something, and it was knocking. We were out in the desert playing around with it, and it started overheating or something and was knocking. So we pulled the motor out and just shoved it in the back corner back here, and put a tarp over it." And he said, "It's been sitting ever since." And I said, "Well, what are you going to do with it?" He said, "Nothing. It's never going back in that dune buggy." So I said, "Well, you want to sell it to me, or can I have it, or what do you want to do?" And he says, "Well, you can't have it, but you can use it. You can do whatever you want with it. You just can't sell it because it belongs to that dune buggy." So I guess that dune buggy was raced in the Baja 1000 by Frank Mir's race team, so it was a well-known dune buggy as well. So that motor was built by the Frank Mir's race team, I guess. Anyway, we drug it out of there, and man, that thing had so many leaves and just dirt and crap all over it. But I got it out, and it had the dual Webers and the chrome fan shroud, and man, that thing looked like it was a hot item. Big old stinger hanging out the back of it, and so I, just out of curiosity, I just rolled it over and just looking around and popped the valve covers off, and one of the seat clip on the end of the rocker shaft had popped off, and the rocker just slid all the way over. And so it probably was in there just slapping around making noise. So I was under the assumption that maybe that was their knocking noise. So I had to put it back together and put the ski clip on it and made it to one of my transmissions I had laying around, and threw a starter up to it and tried to fire it on the ground, but it just rotated ever so slowly and would not fire off as much as I tried. For some reason, it just wouldn't go. So I was like, man, there's got to be something going on with it why it won't fire. So I split the case. And like I was telling you, man, me and my buddy Scott Brady, huge shout out, Scott. He was helping me rip that thing apart. And this was my second motor I've ever built. The first one was at 1835 for my Beetle, and I struggled all the way through it, man. The first time I fired that thing off, I didn't know nothing about the oiling of the motor, anything like that. and I plugged off the oil port by accident, man, and it never had oil. So when I fired it, it ran for 5 minutes, sounded great, and seized up instantly. So I ripped that motor back apart, got it all back together, after I emery clothed the crank up, put new bearings and everything, and found out how the oiling system worked. But anyway, getting back to the Ghia motor, man, me and him were splitting that case on that thing, and he just, kind of excitingly just exploded like, oh my gosh, what the heck? And I'm like, looking at him like, why are you freaking out over here? And he goes, you don't know what you got. And I said, no, tell me, and he goes, that's a Porsche 356 roller crank in there. And I still, don't know a whole lot about them, but I guess it's a pretty significant piece for back then. And they were building some pretty high revving motors with them. I mean, they're heavy, but they were pretty stout for what they were back then. So I was really curious, just ripped it apart, didn't really see anything going on, but the wrist pins on the pistons were real tight. So when you were trying to rotate them, they were just really hard. And when I pulled the wrist pins out of the pistons, I actually had to, tap them out with a nylon hammer to get the wrist pins to come out. So I emery clothed up the piston, the wrist pins real good, made sure they had smooth actuation on there. Got new bearings, got the whole motor all back together, man, and fired that thing off, and it sounded beautiful. So then, just hanging out with those buddies of mine, they said, hey, man, I got this turbo. And I told them, I said, I'm building that Ghia into a drag car. It's not going to be a show car or anything, super special. I mean, it's pretty far gone. So I was like, at this point, it'd make a great drag car. And so will that motor, So he's like, hey, man, I got this turbo. You want to build a turbo motor? And I started looking into it. And I said, sure as shit, man, I do. I want to build a turbo motor. So yeah, that's where we are now. I've got that 2110, and it was a 2110. Come to find out, so it's 2110 with a T3 turbo, pushing 18 pounds of boost right now. So we'll see what we can do with it.
Wow! And hopefully you're going to show us this motor again. I got to see it a while ago, but hopefully the listeners, the viewers, are going to get to see it too. Oh, here we go, boys. All right, let's check this thing out. Holy smokes. Look at this. Damn. Let's go, man. Oh, yeah. You go fire it up?
We can fire it up for you.
Heck yeah, dude. Let's do that. Back to that question because nobody could hear you when you were talking. What I said was, that's okay. It's okay. So how did it feel when it finally ran?
Man, it was such a scary feeling when I first hit that button to fire it off because of that crank and so on those bearings, they have special bearings and you have to I had to take my Dremel and mimic the old bearings that were in there and grind in these diamond cut shapes so it can actually sling the oil out onto the bearings of this crankshaft. So I was so nervous that I cut them right, and I'm like, I hope I didn't leave a burr in there. I hope I didn't, do something wrong. So when it first fired, I was like, man, is it gonna just blow up right away or is it gonna be good? And when it fired up, it was so smooth, such such a great sound. I was like, oh my God, this motor sounds so good. It's like it's so incredible. It was like I couldn't believe it, when it fired. And I mean, literally, it it just fired up. Like it's not like those ones where you go to hit the key and like I just did right there and it wouldn't fire the 5 first times I tried. It
Yeah.
was like the first time, man, it hit and it lit off like it just wanted to run. It was
That's it. It
crazy.
wanted to run. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Something interesting about the whole story, is how it kind of came together, how your buddies, kind of, with the turbo and just all these parts, getting handed to you. And, what I really see from that is what I always see from this community, which is the Volkswagen community shows up, man. And, we certainly stick together and, it's like we hear about these kind of success stories all the time. And there's always those few guys in the culture, in the scene, even in your neighborhood, that are the undercover badass mechanics that it don't matter
Yeah.
what's going on with it or what's wrong. These guys are like, oh yeah, just do this and that, right? And it's
Yeah.
so that's so awesome, man. But yeah, exemplary of the Volkswagen community. So you said it's going to be a drag car. That's pretty much the vision for it, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. Let's talk
Yeah,
about.
looking forward to going down the drag strip with it. I don't really plan on it making it a streetable vehicle, but I do want to take it to some car shows, let it get its old recognition. Maybe those old Volkswagen guys are still out there and they may want to see this car, where it went, where it's been, where it's at now, I've seen multiple cars in my generation that I'm like, man, I wonder where that car went, so it'd be good to just continue to get it out there and show people.
So when Dwayne Singleton reached out to you, tell me kind of how this went. Looking at your past and your story, I'm sure it was probably hard to believe at first, right?
Yeah, man, it was super crazy. I was sitting there one night, just kind of uploading some photos to my website on Facebook. Here, I run the GJV Dubs here in Grand Junction. Try to get the local guys here together, get them in any car groups together, so where we can go for a cruise or coffee or. Like I said, man, if somebody needs some parts or even a helping hand, I'm right
Love
there
it.
to help out. So just trying to get that camaraderie and a big group of people that are here and close together. But
You guys are kicking ass out there. You guys do the tech sessions and that type of stuff, man. I mean, that's just, that's next level. Grant, you guys are all next level. It's so awesome. Our community's pretty dope here too, but I love y'all's community out there.
yeah, man, I wish we had more here in Junction. It's kind of few and far between. There's a lot of old schoolers that are here. They kind of keep underneath the rocks, if you know what I mean. They don't really pop out too often. But I mean, if you need some help, they're there for you. There's a lot of good people here. Chris Nelson at Rusty Volks, man. John Jones over there at Custom Coach Works. They've been a significant help for me, just continuing with my projects. Like you said, if it wasn't for the VW community, there's no way I could possibly be where I am at today. Everybody's just so helpful. I've had Camaros, Novas, Datsun pickups. I've been through all the car scene. I had a little S10 Blazer pickup with a 383 stroker and a single turbo. I've been there, done that.
Yeah.
So I've been in the car scene for a long time, and I'll tell you what, there is nothing like the VW group. They are way nicer group of people. They are just there to help out, and it's just a great group to be in. I really love it.
Yeah, man, that's so awesome to hear, and I agree with you. I feel it. I'm in the same love. It's such a great community to be a part of and to witness. And I hear the same thing from people all the time. Unless you're a part of it, and even at one point in your life, if you were and you're not anymore, you still remember. You still have some stories. You still remember the love for sure. Talking about this car though, let's go back to, I know you had discovered some photos of this car kind of in its glory days. What was it like seeing these pictures? Motivating? Like how did it feel?
Oh man, when I posted them, the photos that I was doing on working on the car, threw them up on GJV Dubs like we were talking. Dwayne just kind of hit me up out of nowhere and said, "Hey man, I can't help but think this may be my old car." He says, "Does it have checkers up here on the front fenders, and does it have it on the back?" And I said, and he said a couple of other things that were key features that kind of would have signified that this was his car or not. And I didn't even have to bat an eye. I said, 100% this is your old car. And then I started sending him some pictures of the items he was telling me about, and he just, I could imagine how his reaction was on the other side of the phone, but he was stoked, man. He said, "That's my old car. I can't believe it. I bought that car back in Oklahoma in '95 for his significant other that he had at that time. She really wanted one, so they bought it, and they spent way more than they should have, according to him, on it, and got it all put back together. And they ended up moving over to Amarillo, Texas, and he got it painted, and he did some work on it, got it slammed down. They were doing some B-dub stuff over there, and somehow he ran into Rocky Mountain Motor Works over here in Colorado, and they were like a Volkswagen supplier where they supplied aftermarket accessories, parts, and stuff, kind of like CP1 does. And so he got an offer for a job opportunity as an online sales guy. And so he moved over here and became a sales guy for them, and was able to outfit this entire Ghia with everything that was on the shelf that was aftermarket for it. So, I mean, this car, it was a really beautiful car at one point in time. And he sent me some pictures of what it looked like when he first got it, and then what it looked like at Volkswagens on the Green back in 90, I think it was 96 and 97, and
Yeah.
man, what a beautiful car. And it's just like, wow, it's cool to just know that that's where it was. And there was even more people after he had said, "Hey man, that was my old car." It became a big thing. He kind of posted a big post and said, "Hey, a huge shout out to Kristopher Hayes and what he's doing with this deep purple." That was the car's name back then. And a whole bunch of other Volkswagen guys just started coming out of the woodworks and saying, "Hey, I remember that car." And a couple other
Sweet.
people, yeah, a couple other people had rode in it, and they were like, "Man, that was the fastest Volkswagen I ever rode in, and it was the smoothest." And he just started telling me a bunch more information that I would have never known unless I started breaking things on it. He's got a narrowed, the rear end's a narrowed rear end, I guess. So he's got T3 bus axles in it, and he's got a freeway flyer in there, and he's done some other things with like the spring plates and a couple other items. But him telling me all this stuff, I'm like, wow, I would have never known. It had a T3 bus axle until I would have snapped one and tried to just put a regular Ghia axle in it, and it would have been 3 inches too short because he's got the rear end narrowed.
Right.
Yeah, so it's just a bunch of different things that coming together. And he says, the aluminum dash in there was really hard for him to come across back then, and it's got all the original VDO gauges in it and stuff. And so he's like asking me, "Hey, does it still got that gauge pod?" And it was actually shoved underneath the hood when I got the car. So the picture that I showed him initially didn't show the gauges, so he thought somebody wiped them out. But I ended up putting it in there and showed him, and he was like, "Rock on, man!" And you can kind of hear the sadness in his voice,
Yeah.
knowing that
I
it's
bet.
it's not it's not his anymore, but he's super happy for it. And I mean, he hits me up all the time trying to see where this car's going, and he's stoked, man. Me and him are hopefully we're gonna meet up at Volkswagens on the Green. And maybe we can, maybe not this year, but maybe next year, maybe we can meet and he can see his old car. And
Yeah.
hopefully he's got some money for me, and he'll just take it off my hands.
That'd be kind of cool. All right.
I think it would be cool.
Unless you want
Yeah,
to hang
just
on to it.
I think it would be sweet, man. A full circle turn and just put it right back in his hands. That'd be
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah. Heck yeah, man. Let's talk about the magazines. Did you get to see the magazines that it was in? I think you said it was 97. Did you get to
Yeah,
see any of
so
the actual articles itself?
I've got him. Yeah, so he
Oh,
actually, him and Eric, a guy named Eric Madsen over here in Grand Junction, Colorado. He's pretty well known in the Volkswagen scene, and in the drag racing scene. He's got a really, really, really fast Ghia out there. And so yeah, he
Hey,
was
bro.
like, "Hey man, Eric Madison actually got a hold of me and was like, here, I remember that being in this magazine." And he says, "I got it." And so he actually sent me a photo of the front of the magazine, and it said like September of '97, Volkswagen magazine, you know. So I went on eBay instantly and was like, I need to find that particular magazine. So I looked up, you know, September of '97 hot BWs, and there it was. I was like, no way. So I ordered that one, and then I found out it was in 3 separate other magazines. And so I found all of those as well on eBay. So I've got all of those magazines. I purchased all of them. I was able to get all of them. So now I've got the original clippings that the car was in all of those magazines. So really cool
Yeah,
stuff.
sick, dude. Sick history.
Yeah.
I love it when these cars tell a story like that, especially after you kind of bring them back. And I think
Yeah.
that's also some of the reasoning behind the name for it now, right? Deep Purple Resurrection.
Yeah. Yeah. What's really wild is it, you know, like you said, I had this epiphany that it was going to be a cool car. And then lo and behold, man, it just unraveled before my eyes. It wasn't even me, and it's not even something I did. It's just it's the past that really brings it to the now.
Yeah, and that's really so cool, man, too, because it's like cars really do, they kind of carry this energy with them. And when you're a car guy, it's like just something calls out to you. And I'll even take it a step further because I see this a lot too. I say this, and I've said it on many other podcast episodes. Volkswagens are like cats. They find you, right?
Yeah.
Like cats. Cats really do find you, and they pick, I swear to God, they pick their owners. I think
Right.
wagons are kind of in the same boat. You know, we have to be crazy enough to always be looking for opportunities, but when they find us, there's always more. There's always more to
Yeah.
the story. There's always, and it's I just always think that that's the coolest stuff to talk about, man. So, yeah, awesome.
These Volkswagens, though, man, you kind of gotta want it. If you want to get one, you're gonna have to work for it.
That's what I was just gonna say. I was gonna say, tell me what keeps you going when it's feeling overwhelming. Because I have a project in my driveway right now. I've got a 62 Beetle. You know, I have plans for it, sure, but I've also got life kicking my butt, and you know what I mean? And it doesn't matter how much money you're made of or what you're willing to spend or any of that stuff. When you're overwhelmed, you're overwhelmed. And I love the feeling of sometimes these classics take a long time to get these projects back together. People give advice all the time, especially builders, about, hey, take your time, don't worry, everything's going to come together one day. And I'm a fan of that, but it still doesn't help me from feeling overwhelmed sometimes. So a builder, asking you, what keeps you going when things get overwhelming?
Man, the best thing I can tell you is have 2 projects going at one time.
So you can get some wins in there.
But when one gets super overwhelming for you, you can jump on to the other. I'm like you said, I've got one going on right now that's just it's a pain in my ass. I don't know what's going on with it. My '68 Beetle, man, I was driving to work. Uh, normally it's been my everyday driver. I have no problems with it. Just driving to work one day, and it felt like I just lost a cylinder, you know, just petering out. And I was like, well, we'll just deal with it when I get home tonight. And I got home, and it just still was running like crap. And I was like, well, maybe the spark plugs are bad, you know? So I threw a set of plugs in it, and that didn't fix it. So I was like, huh, that's kind of weird. This thing never has a problem, you know? And so I'm like, well, what could it be? So I pulled the air filters off and was looking down the carburetors, just kind of seeing what was going on. And my left hand, the driver's side one, had a nice steady stream when it would squirt, and then the passenger side was just falling in there, just kind of broken up all over the place. So like, well, I do have another set of brand new Solexes that I purchased for the bus, and they're direct replacements. So I was like, well, let me throw those on. I threw those on, and it still, man, it was still running super crummy. So I'm like, man, what else could it be? So I was like, well, maybe I've got a weak coil, and I've got the CB Performance, the Magna Spark 2 on there. And so I actually had an extra coil for a Magna Spark 2. So I was like, well, let's throw it on there, see what happens. That didn't fix it. I'm like, wow, this is really odd, you know? So I was like, maybe my valves are out of adjustment. Let's do a valve adjustment. So I adjust the valves and I fired up and that didn't fix it. I'm like, well, maybe I'll do it again. We'll see if that helps. So I adjust the valves another time just to go through it and be safe and know, you know, for a peace of mind again. Nope, that didn't fix it. I'm like, man, this is freaking weird. So I was like, well, the only other thing I can think of is maybe I've got bad gas. So I pulled the gas tank out, drained the entire gas tank, put it in, put new gas in it. Still the same thing. I'm like, what in the hell? So I'm like, well, there's only really like maybe one other item, and that's the ignition module inside that distributor. I have another distributor, CB Performance. So I was like, well, hell, let's just throw the other piece in there, see what happens, man. And no luck, no luck at all. It's still running like crap. I don't know what to do. So I am extremely overwhelmed with it. I just told myself I'm not going to work on it today. I'm going to take a break. I'm just going to let it be and take some time to think about what it may be. I'm almost thinking maybe a weak valve spring, something in that nature, but it's just hard to say at this point.
You know how sometimes when you're so close to a problem that you can't see it, you know,
Yeah.
like the example that just came to my brain when you were telling that story was sometimes my kids are in the back room playing their video games and they can't advance or they can't get past this certain point or whatever it is, right? And it's like as soon as another brother comes by and grabs the remote, this one brother's been playing for hours and the
Yeah.
other brother will come and grab the remote. And the first 2 seconds he tries it, he
Right through
advances
it.
right through it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because he wasn't so close to the problem that that he couldn't see it. He just he's like, oh yeah, well you had this going on, and I just was able to do that. And it's so yeah, I thought about that when you said that. I thought that was kind of funny. Uh,
Yeah. Sometimes frustration can cloud your mind, man.
yeah, yeah, good point. So, so let me hear your opinion on this one. I know you kind of touched on this a little bit already, but you come from kind of a unique background, which is a lot of American cars, etc. I really want to hear your verbiage through this. What's the VW scene? Why is the VW scene different from other car communities?
Wow, man, they just seem like they're more tight knit of a community. It seems like people go home and they may hang out as Volkswagen people together, rather than I think the Chevy guys they separate, they go away. It wasn't like when I had Novas or Chevy Camaros or S10s or anything like that. I never had a friend say, "Hey, man, I've got a set of Nova fenders. If you want to come over and grab them." But I have tons of people who are like, hey, I've got a set of bumpers for that if you want, or hey, I got a buddy who's got this, or it just seems so much friendlier, so everybody just wants to help the other guy out, and it seems like they don't care about the return, what they get in return. They just want to see another Volkswagen or another enthusiast out there and being happy and doing the same thing.
Yeah, keeping it alive, keeping it
Yeah,
alive, keeping these things on the road. I hear all the time, when they're sitting around a lot, they usually fail. They're designed to be driven, and that's, kind of the culture. I feel like the culture is like designed to be driven,
yeah.
But yeah, that's awesome. Well said. Tell me what it's going to feel like to bring this car back to, a show like Volkswagen's on the Green.
Oh man, I hope everybody else gets the feeling out of it, honestly. I just want to be the one to bring it there. I want to see people's reactions. I want to see the happiness. I want to see the same like enthusiasm that I get when I see it, and then telling the same story to other people. Like you said, it's almost too good to be true. It doesn't sound. It sounds so real and like so magazine-ish that it doesn't seem right. But I mean, it really is. It's great.
So cool, man. So cool. I'm excited for you. I'll be looking forward to seeing some posts of when that day comes. Like
Yeah,
you said, though, no rush. It'll take time, and quality always does. So awesome, man. Well, I got some rapid fire questions. All right. These questions like kind of demand a fast response. However, if a story comes of it, so be it. But you ready? Rapid fire style.
Yes, sir. Let's do it.
All right. First one, air cooled or water cooled if you had to choose one forever.
Air cooled all day long.
Air cooled all day long. Favorite VW body style ever?
Ooh, the Ramage.
Wow.
I
Never
love
heard
the
that.
57 Ramage. Is beautiful.
Dude, never heard anybody say that. So cool. Good job. Good job. That's certainly different and unique. What's the best Volkswagen sound ever?
Ooh, it's got to be straight cut gears, my friend.
Awesome. What's a tool, one tool that you could never live without?
Oh man, I'm gonna have to say, let's see, a torque multiplier.
Okay. All right. Tell me a moment in your life related to cars, even related to Volkswagens, that you almost quit, but you didn't.
One related to Volkswagens. Well, let's say let's put it on the Beetle, man. I'm not quitting. I'm still going strong. That one's been a tough one.
I want to hear what that is finally when you do get the fix. I want to hear what
I
it
will.
was. Yeah,
I sure will.
we're all gonna learn from that. All right, how about this one? Do you have a maybe a dream show that you would like to debut or even just bring Deep Purple to?
I think it's gonna be this first one here in 26, man. I don't think there's gonna be another one that'll top it because it's gonna be my first show there. I haven't met Grant in person yet, so I think that's gonna be a good one too. I'll be able to meet him in person, get some good stories from him, listen to other people that are there. I don't think that the day's gonna be long enough, to be honest with you.
Yeah, man, they never are. They never are. And then when they're over, you're like, "Wait, wait, wait. I didn't get I didn't get to see this or that or right." It's like that's never
Yeah.
enough. But that's
Yeah.
cool. That's the beauty of this wonderful community. All right, how about this one? What advice would you give to young builders? You know, our job, I feel like, is to kind of pass the torch and to make sure, kind of like what you were saying in the very beginning, with, you know, your son's old enough now to appreciate some stuff and it's your job to kind of, you know, teach him, you know, to become an automotive enthusiast, etc. What advice would you give yourself to young builders that are interested in the Volkswagen scene?
Man, don't slow down. Always put your right foot forward, man. Keep going. Don't let anybody stop you. If that's your dream, that's your passion, go for it. I mean, the only person that'll ever stop you is yourself. So, I mean, if you continue to go, it will happen. It will happen. Keep trying. Surround yourself with people that are better than you. You'll always become a better person every day.
Very good advice. Describe the Volkswagen community for me in just one word.
Friendly.
Friendly. Nice. I like it. Okay. If Volkswagens disappeared tomorrow in your life, what would fill its space?
Oh man, probably boats, small
Oh,
block Chevys.
okay. I'm here in West Coast Central Florida. We got a ton of boats around us, man. I live in a peninsula basically. I got water on all sides of me, and my son
Beautiful.
boats. I grew up boating. Matter of fact, when I left high school in '95, the first thing I did when I, you know, wanted to go, you know, I said, screw college. I'm not doing that. I'm gonna go become a marine mechanic. So I went to Clearwater P Tech and I went and joined their marine mechanics course and, you know, probably first 350 hours of marine rigging, I was like, I'm out of here. I can go start a business and make more than my instructor, you know.
Yeah,
Probably should have finished, but I didn't. But I did go start that business. And I've always
yeah.
been an entrepreneur and always had kind of an entrepreneur mindset. But yeah, this ain't about me. It's about you.
But definitely, you being mechanically inclined has helped out through your Volkswagen days for sure. Then,
It has, but I would like to even admit this. I'm not the most mechanically inclined, like gifted type dude. You know,
yeah,
matter of fact, I'll even say this, and I can say this with pride. There are people that are so much better than me, even right here in my immediate area, that are so good at working on these cars. I don't want to like mess my shit up. So I'm like, yo, dude, I'll just pay you to do it because you're
yeah.
just way better than me, you know, and
Right.
I don't want to break down and be on the road. And, I mean, I've been there and I've tried to do
Hey,
it, and I do tinker. I do. I'm not trying to sit here and make it sound like I'm nobody or nothing. I'm smart enough to know better for sure. Right.
that's good security for sure.
But I'd just rather have an expert do it, bro. That's just me. And
Yeah.
I'll sit there and I'll watch, and
Yeah.
I'm that much of a fan and an enthusiast where I'd rather have the expert, really put their
Yeah.
love in it, and then I
Yeah.
can enjoy the masterpiece
Oh
instead of
yeah.
the half-assed, kind of finished project. And that's a wrap for this episode of DubLife Diaries. Thanks for riding along with us and diving into these incredible stories of the people in the dubs that drive their dreams. If you love today's episode, don't forget to subscribe or hit that follow button so you never miss an adventure. Do you have a story to tell or know somebody else who's living the dub life? Awesome! Reach out to us. You can find us on all socials at DubLife Diaries, or shoot me an email. I'm not hard to find. DubLifeDiaries@gmail.com. Until next time, keep the engines humming and the wheels turning, and always follow the road that inspires you. This is Joe Person. I'm signing off. I'll catch you on the next ride.